So, this is a web-based app. Huntier.net is where you get to it from any sort of search browser. And what the intent was is to really connect hunters to landowners and producers to utilize their land for hunting or other sporting purposes. I'm a lifelong North Dakota resident, born and raised in Jamestown, now currently in West Fargo. And, I grew up hunting, ducks, pheasants, deer with my family. And in those days, which I hate to admit, it's been a long time. When I was a kid, it was a lot easier to access land. But through the years, for various reasons, land has become more and more difficult to find and access. So, now with my own children, wanting to introduce them to the sport and to the entire tradition of hunting, I thought this may be an interesting way to do it. So I have a business partner. He and I are really good friends, and we started talking about this a few years ago and started putting things down and decided to start a business and open up an application. So what we do is basically just allow, again, hunters to find access to new land, and allows producers to make some extra income from their land that otherwise wouldn't be utilized during the hunting season.
And Jeff, this is kind of perfect timing. I'm sure you remember, I believe it was earlier this year, it was in the western or central part of the state where hunters got in a big shouting match, and there was a big to-do with one of the farmers or ranchers out there that they were on his land or right on the property line where they weren't supposed to be. That I'm guessing this is something obviously that would alleviate any problems like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. That was an unfortunate situation, which highlights an unfortunate set of circumstances where the relationship between hunters and landowners has deteriorated over many years. And speaking personally from a hunting perspective, but also lots of friends and family members that are producers, there needs to be some sort of bridge to kind of reconnect again, and that's one intent of what we developed this application for. This kind of gives us a clear guidance on where you're going to go hunting, when you're going to go hunting, who's going to be around, who's not going to be around. And the advantage of it is a landowner knows who's going to be out there. Interesting feature we built into our application. And, we built this entire application by scratch with over 100 interviews between hunters and landowners before we even started programming any sort of code. An interesting feature is a rating system similar to what maybe Uber and other applications have, where the landowner gets to rate the hunter. So if the hunter comes out to their property, drives through the bean field, or leaves a bunch of garbage behind, or does something unethical, they're going to get rated poorly on the application, and a series of some minor infractions eventually will kick them off the application. If it's an egregious problem, like they're shooting towards a building or something else that's completely unethical, then we'll kick them off right away. So the aim is to keep ethical, responsible hunters on the application, which in turn benefits landowners because they know the type of quality of people that are going to be accessing their property.
I think that's a super cool aspect that you're incorporating to that, to be able to rate the person that's on your land, and this person's got a 1-star, I think I'm going to deny them from being on my land. My question on that is there anything within your code or within the way that you register an account with this app that would prevent someone from just making a new account if they have a poor rating on their account? Is there anything that's going to stop them from just, putting in a different username or email address and having a new account?
Yeah, good question. So, we don't allow for usernames, kind of like the, the 211s or something like that. You register under your own name and your primary email source. And we have talked about putting in a mechanism within the code that would recognize similarities. We haven't fully deployed that yet, but we have kind of a constant observance on the site and, kind of a single way to register. You do also need, as a hunter, to book a property, you do need to have a payment source. So that payment source will also be similar. You could maybe theoretically grab a new credit card or something like that, but there's going to be a few different stops along the way that would flag us right now, the way we currently have set up. But yeah, to your point, we have talked about another mechanism underlying all of that to make sure we don't, have these folks continue to fly under the radar.
And Jeff,
Right.
How do you find the farmers and ranchers that are willing to rent out their land for this? Do they have to sign up for this to be on the app, or how does that work?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we have them sign up. It's a completely free application to use. We're actually just starting a marketing campaign, direct mail, letters, et cetera, to most of North Dakota. So we're getting the word out to all the producers out there. We're going to be involved in a few shows coming up here later in the summer and fall, and things along those lines. We're trying to get in front of producers and landowners, letting them know this is a free service. We don't ever charge the landowner a dime. That's one of the things that we're pretty adamant about. So for instance, if the landowner feels that their quarter section is worth $100 for the day for, let's say 4 total hunters, so $25 per person per day, we don't charge the landowner anything to list that. It would come across our application with the access fee and that we charge the hunter. So everything, is totally streamlined, so that makes it easy for the landowner, because, this is a pretty big jump for some of them. I mean, not a lot of folks are used to technology like this, or do they feel comfortable with it. So we wanted to make it as easy as process as we're able to do.
And Jeff, so go ahead, Bridget.
Jeff, I want to piggyback onto that. How much time can a hunter block? Can they do multiple days with a particular landowner, or is it only a certain set amount of time that you allow?
No, the landowner themselves, they can specify the time, the date that's available. They can specify which species are available. So for instance, quite a bit of feedback we received from producers was, well, I don't mind if somebody hunts my property for ducks and geese, but I really want to hold on to the pheasants. They can set up their land to do that. And they can have it available through the beginning of duck season and then stop it right before pheasant season. And then if they want to start it later in the year, maybe they don't care about the last month of pheasant season, they can open it up then. So the landowner has unlimited control. We don't control any aspect of it. We kind of think of this as a free market, and we're just the application that they use to create a new resource for the land, which is different than a lot of applications out there. And they can set it for as many days as they want, or as little as days as they want. And the hunter only has access to those days that are listed on the calendar.
And Jeff, we've got an email question. How many landowners, from one of our listeners, how many landowners currently are part of the app at this time?
We have a little over 6,000 acres total on the application right now. And this is our first marketing campaign, so we're expecting that number is going to grow. We've had quite a few emails from landowners kind of kicking the tires, so to speak. Again, I have family members that are landowners, a lot of friends that are landowners and producers, and most of their personalities are they want to check things out and let a little time go by before they make the decision on it. So we have quite a few folks in the pipeline. So I think here with our marketing campaign and with a few more folks kind of making the final decision to go ahead and use the application, I would expect we're going to be over 20,000 plus acres by this fall for sure, and maybe even more.
Okay.
That's super interesting. I really like this idea because it's so difficult in general just to find land to hunt on, and then past people have ruined it for so many people going forward. So I'll kind of say it again, that you can rate the people that are going on your land to hunt, I feel brings a much larger area of credibility to the people that respect the land versus the people that are just there to screw around and who cares what happens, because we know that happens. Yeah. Look at the video from last year. And speaking with Jeff Hunt, he's the creator of hunttier.net, and when I out last time, I need to correct myself. It's .net, not .com. And he's developing this web-based app, and I think of it like an Airbnb or an Uber of hunting, where you can put land up for not sale, but lease in a way for other people to come and hunt on your land. You specify the time that they can come in and hunt. You specify the species that they can hunt for. And then on the opposite end, someone books it. They hunt for whatever it is that you have listed during that time period. You get paid for it. And it also holds the hunter accountable for respecting the land, because the owners get to go back and rate these hunters on how well they kept to what they said they were going to and respecting the land that they're on. And I think that's my favorite part about this. If you have have a question for Jeff about his app or anything we're talking about, feel free to give us a call, 701-293-9000. And before we went to break, we were kind of talking a little bit about how the app works, and as well as the reduction and availability of hunting land, and a lot of it being revolved around just a bad connection between hunter and landowner over the years, with things that have just gone bad, the hunters not respecting the rights of the land or what they're there for in the first place. And Jeff, I wanted to ask you, in your opinion, do you think it's strictly that reason of just the disconnect from, say, city folk to landowners, or hunters to landowners hunting on their land, that's given them the bad credibility and the less availability of land to hunt on? Or do you think that there's another reason or something that goes along with it for the reduction of land to hunt on in the first place for the public?
Well, there may be a few kind of, I think, lesser reasons, but again, the landowner interviews that we've had, and again, speaking to my friends and family who are landowners and producers, it really just comes down to a couple of key factors. One is they've had some poor interaction in the past, something that has kind of, kind of set them in the wrong direction, where they just didn't want to have to deal with the problem any longer. Some have had concerns regarding, ethical hunting on their property. Some of them just really frankly didn't want to take 1,000 phone calls every year from people that wanted to access their land. They had no idea who they were. Those types of concerns basically led a lot of them to just say, heck with it, I'm just going to post it and not have to worry about it any longer. Some of the feedback we've gotten from hunters has been mostly positive. There's been a few folks concerned that, we're going to take a lot of land out of public access, which actually I would argue is going to be opposite to that. Our goal isn't to impact any plots land or any other land that's currently available. It's to open up some of those private acres that you see 1,000 ducks on or 1,000 geese on that you just can't access because the landowner has made a decision that he or she just doesn't want to mess with it any longer. That's our goal. It is to do that, and then working with some different conservation networks. We've been in discussion with them about, how we can maybe set aside a relationship where a certain percentage of the dollars that come into our organization go and support, Pheasants Forever, Ducks Unlimited, North Dakota Game and Fish, things like that. Our goal is to open up hunting, for everybody. And, some people will use the application. Some of this will go into public funds. So we just want to try to open up more acres for people like me, for people like a bunch of the folks I know who just want to go out and enjoy the outdoors and spend time with their family.
Right. And I feel like a lot of the people that own this land that are saying, no, I'm done. I don't want people coming back on my land anymore. It's not that they want to take the availability or option of hunting away from everybody, but they've had one, or maybe they've had two, or it's happened a couple of times of just bad experiences. And they're like, you know what, I'm done. I don't want to deal with this. Not that it's going to happen every time, but I don't want it to happen again. And now that you can rate the hunter and hold them accountable, I just see that gap being healed, or that bridge being repaired over the years to come. Jeff, from the interviews and feedback you've gotten from landowners and also from the hunters, what are each side of those aspects feedback to you by using your app? Have they seen just an improvement in the quality of people coming out there? Is it easier to find land on the hunter aspect? What does that look and sound like?
Yeah, we've had an ecstatic reaction among hunters. They're very excited, kind of like what you're alluding to, Justin. They just want access to land. They're ready to be good stewards of the land. They want to have that relationship again, where they're able to go out and find a quarter section or a section to hunt. So that reaction has been quite positive. The landowners themselves have expressed a lot of optimism. Again, I think they're going to be a little slower to the process about signing up their acres, especially if they've been burned in the past. We're just asking to reconsider, take a look through our application, send us an email, give me a call. I have no problem talking to you on the phone. I'd be happy to do so. And if you have any other questions or other concerns, or any other really good feedback, we would love to hear it. We're constantly in development. We're making changes based on feedback that we're getting. A couple of things I'd like to highlight, if that's okay, is two features in our application, which I think landowners will really appreciate, would be where you developed an in-application text messaging system. So once somebody books your property, a message will open up between you and that individual that will allow for communication directly, kind of like an instant messenger. And what that'll allow you to do is designate and kind of give them instructions on where to enter the land. Stay, next to it is a cornfield. Don't drive through there. Don't shoot in this direction because we're going to be out here, plowing or harvesting, next door to you. So there's a way that they can communicate, and that communication channel does close, I believe, a day or two after the hunt. So they're not going to be constantly
cool.
pestering you, but it just allows you to communicate and make sure everyone's on the same page.
And
and we're also
go ahead, Jeff.
So
sorry.
Oh, I was going to say, we're also in early April. I just spoke with my business partner last night. In early April, we're going to deploy a social media functionality to our application. Think of it like a Facebook specifically designed for hunters, where you can post pictures, you can connect, you can message with fellow hunters, share stories, share tips, share tricks. We're going to be putting together some video series on kind of introductory how to hunt certain species. Just kind of a fun environment to be, in regards to hunters. And our goal with that is to not only provide a service to the hunting industry, but also to get thousands of eyes looking at our site every day, which in turn may make them look at your property that you have listed. So I think it's going to be a win-win for landowners. They're going to get a lot more traffic looking at their available properties to hunt, and then hunters is going to be a win because it's going to be free service to use where they can connect with fellow hunters and share stories.
And Jeff, before we get to Todd's on. Todd, you're coming up next here. Quick question, Jeff. So I'm not a hunter myself. Love eating wild game. Love it. Is there, and this might be a real stupid question, but I'm not going to know unless I ask it. So is there any way to try, let's say somebody wants to, all right, last minute, the guys are getting together for a weekend. We want to book this part of the property, this part of land. Do you have any tracking system on your app to let the hunters know, like if it's, if they're out hunting deer, all right, here's a hot spot for the deer. Let's book this property right now, last minute. Is there anything on your app that can track that or no?
Yeah, we do have a rating system available that the hunter rates the land as well. So after it's been hunted a few times, the hunter will give feedback on what type of species they saw, the numbers they saw, all those types of things. There's also a comment section that you can read some of the comments, like a Google review, so to speak, or Amazon review. So before you book the property, you can look at the star rating as well as some of the reviews before you make that decision. And then also in the social media functionality, if you're logged into that, which again is totally free to use. You just basically create a free account and you have access to it. There'll be people posting on there about where they've been and what success they've had. So you'll have that at your hands as well too.
Okay. And Todd's on line one with a question for you. Todd, go ahead.
Yeah, good afternoon. Great show, and I really like your idea here. But I've got two questions for you. Number one, are there any landowners that you're hooking up with that really like to have hunters but just want to have control over it, which is what you're doing with your app, where they're not charging to use the land?
Sure. We don't currently have any hunters in that regard, but we have talked about it, and that is not a problem. If you wanted, for instance, if you're a cattle rancher, you want a bunch of people to come out and shoot coyotes, you can charge $0. That's okay. We don't mind that at all. Or you can just advertise on the site as well.
Okay, and my follow-up question that I've got for you is, and this is more with regard to the legislature in the last couple of sessions and the new posting guidelines. How much do you think electronic posting has added to the number of acres that are now posted versus before, when it had to be done with a new sign every year?
Good question. I don't know the exact numbers, but I would presume that it's made access even more difficult. I know this last fall I went out and, of course, trying to figure out which property was posted versus not. It's not as easy as it used to be. So, I mean, that was a bit of a challenge. Overall, hard to say if it's a good thing or a bad thing. I guess I don't want to jump on either side of that fence. But I know, just personally speaking, this last fall when I was out, driving around, seeing some game on a property that I didn't see posted signs, pulling up the application on the North Dakota Game and Fish was kind of cumbersome. So we've been actually again, as a side note, this is going to be down the road a few months. Hopefully by this hunting season, we're talking about intertwining that with our application, which, with a computing power, we would be a little bit easier to access, not as cumbersome. But we haven't released that yet, so I didn't want to get into too many details on how that's going to work. But yeah, again, I think the idea is good. I just don't know if it's going to become more of a problem for hunters trying to find some land.
I see. I wanted to. Oh, you can go ahead, Bridget.
Go ahead, just a real quick question, Todd. Is it North Dakota only, or do you have other states included on this app?
Where this app is built nationwide. We currently have a couple of outfitters down in the Missouri area as well as Mississippi that have posted on there as well. We're based here in West Fargo, and we'll always be more North Dakota focused, but this application is built to be nationwide. Our goal is eventually to have a place to hunt in every state, a different species to hunt, things like that. So, the code is there for it to be used by a landowner in California, North Dakota, Texas, or Pennsylvania. It really doesn't make a difference. We just wanted it to be available for whoever would like to use it.
So that was going to be my question as well, Bridget. We were thinking on the same line right there. Hey, Jeff, when you bring this app public, let us know so we can get in on the IPO. All right.
Sounds good. Absolutely. I'll let you know.
I've got a lot of hunters that are really good friends of mine, and boy, they're going to love this. I mean, is there anybody else, Jeff, that has something similar to this across the country?
Yeah. There's a few companies out there. One that's based in Minneapolis, one that's based in Montana, another that's down in, I believe it is southern Missouri. They kind of do a little bit different. They don't have social media. They don't have a lot of the other systems that we have in place. They have their own kind of little niche. You may have heard Mr. Wonderful just invested $1.25 million in one of them. Oh. Surprisingly, it's a North Dakota investment, but it's a company that's based in Montana. So take that for what you will. But it is becoming more and more popular across the country. So I think we're going to see a lot of progress and a lot of movement in this field.
Right. Well, like I was saying earlier, I see this being the Airbnb, the Uber of hunting apps for land. Hey, Jeff, if people want to get more information about your website, they want to go on there, check out the app, or ask any additional questions somewhere that they can follow you, the app, where can they go to get all that information from?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, they can do that a couple different ways. They can go to huntier.net. So it's huntier.net. You just go to any search browser, whether you use Google Chrome or Google itself or whatever else that you use. One of my personal favorites is DuckDuckGo. Give it a try. That'll be able to access our site. They can email us at support@huntier.net. We answer that throughout the course of the day.